to know is how did you guys decide that, okay, this is it? I know Andrew mentioned that initially he was interested in cardiology, but then he transferred over. So this question is really, how did you decide? Was there a specific time? Was it third year medical school, second year? What was it that made it click for you guys? Lovette, you can go ahead and start.
I think for me, coming into med school, I was always interested in cardiac surgery, and I think it wasn't until really my first year um, when I did the cardiac surgery like specific program at Ohio State, where we were able to rotate through as a first year, so definitely didn't know what was going on for most of the part, but just the way that the cardiac surgeons really knew their patients inside and out. And really were able to display, I think, a very heightened level of knowledge that I really aspire towards. And then, when you have these really critically ill patients, the way that, they were so amazing at, explaining what was going on and really taking you through all these different challenges and helping you understand echoes and the vents and things like that. But then also how they pushed you to learn more and kind of seek information for yourself. And so I think that was one of the things that really, really drew me into it. And then I'm a very big health disparities person. So, of course, like cardiac surgery and thoracic surgery has a lot of disparities within it. And so that's also my academic interest. And so I felt like I really loved the clinical settings. I loved the possible academic implications that I could, find myself within. So that's sort of what it was for me.
Awesome, thank you. So it seems like you had the exposure from day one of medical school. Is there any of our panelists that didn't really have that exposure? Andrew, did you have the exposure?
Yeah, no, I didn't. So I can talk to it. So, as I said again, I walked in with an interest in cardiology, but I explored all the fields like any first year kind of will do. And so I kind of found surgery. And I knew going into my summer between first and second year, I wanted to do some form of research to remain competitive for any specialty that I chose. And so I ended up cold emailing a surgeon at MUSC and then worked with him in the congenital cardiac field. And getting to go there for my summer to MUSC and spend that time there, I think I had an interest in cardiac surgery, like going into my spring semester of first year, but going there and doing research, seeing an academic institution, I think cemented it for me at that time. And from then on, going to second, third year, and fourth year, I just built on that experience I had at MUSC in my summer. But I will say, like, you have to reach out for it sometimes. I had a cold email for it, but I'm really grateful that it worked out.
Okay, thank you so much. I see some questions coming in. So we are going to talk about everything today. We're going to talk about the application cycle. We're going to talk about rotations. But I'm a little bit, I have a format that I'm trying to go through. So right now we're going to transition into the rotation part. Alice, I would like to know, how did you decide where to do your away rotations when it came to cardiac surgery?
Yeah. So most people for aways, I think, try to aim for somewhere between 2 and 4 ways. Some people do more, some people do less, but I think, three is kind of that sweet spot. And so that's what I aim for. And in choosing those 3 ways, I really just talked to people who had applied previous years, learned about different experiences, learned about different programs that I might be interested in, and ultimately, that's how I ended up choosing my way. So I did a month at Columbia, a month at Stanford, and then a month at Duke. And ultimately, it was really based on both factors, talking to other people, learning about programs, being really interested in those programs, and then also sort of other personal factors. So I did have family in the Durham area, which is why I decided to do a rotation at Duke. In the end, those were also my top 3 programs that I was most interested in. And so I think for me, my approach was to really just do ways, try to see programs that I'm interested in to see if I really am interested in them, and then also hopefully to get more exposure.
Thank you. Adam?
Yeah, a very similar process to Alice. I mean, I think the most important thing is kind of asking the year above you, and if you have a resident that you're close to, sorry about the background noise, but if you have a residence that you're close to, kind of figuring out like what the vibe is there. Things that you should think about when you're considering programs, I think, is number one, personal factors. That's something that if I could go back, I think I would have reevaluated a little bit. I did a ways at Columbia, Cedars, and Cleveland, so kind of all over geographically distributed all over the states. Um, and I didn't really think about, having like family or having like personal connections in the Northeast area. I think that's something that should take weight when you're looking at it. I think to some extent, at the same time, you also do want to make sure you're getting the best possible training and you're looking at programs that really fit the factors that you want to get. 2 to 4 is spot. When you're getting there, things to kind of evaluate is not just experience there, but see how are the residents learning to take care of patients? Are they managing patients on the floor? Would the system crumple without them? Right? If they're the only people in the ICU or on the floors making decisions, you take one day and you're off. The whole team takes a hit. So that's something you really want to evaluate and think what kind of support is there for you. From an operative experience, you want to see are some people they just want to be on the surgeon side of the table the entire time, and obviously you do have to end up there at some point. But um, you might kind of want to evaluate how much autonomy is there. Is it too much or too little to your liking? What kind of uh, environment do you think you'll thrive in, and do you need more independence early on, or do you want someone to kind of walk you through or hold your hand a little bit in the beginning as you build your confidence? So these are all very, very personal, tailored questions. The worst thing you could do is kind of just take people's word at face value and say, oh, like this program doesn't let you operate at all. This program lets you operate too much, or this program won't teach you how to take care of patients. I think there's always extreme statements that are made by applicants and people kind of through the grape. What's the word? What's that Marvin Gaye song? Through the grapevine? Yeah, I think you really got to go there. You got to see with your own eyes, and you got to make an educated decision on your own. And it's just as much about how much the program will fit for you as much as you will fit in there. So that was a long-winded answer. I hope I hit
No, no, no.
some
That
important
was
points.
very, very, very important. Let's go to Andrew. Could you walk us through like a day in your life when you were doing the away rotation?
Yeah, so I did 7 of them. Each
Ooh.
one is different. Don't laugh, Adam. Each one is different in like how they're set up though. So a day in the life can be I'll give you the general, but I will say through each one you will have different things that happen for each rotation. You just have to kind of be flexible. So at depending on the institution, sometimes I was there at 4:30 or 5. You show up, you might have, and depends on the institution whether you're going to see patients in the ICU or on the floor. So for most of my rotations, I saw 1 to 2 ICU patients. At Cleveland Clinic, I saw floor patients and ICU patients, but usually you'll see ICU patients. So I saw like 1 to 2 ICU patients that we had operated on the day before. You collect all their data, you collect their numbers, and then depending on the institution, there are like pre-rounding with the residents, or there's just rounding with the attendings. At MUSC, for example, we rounded with the residents, and then again, the chief resident would report in another rounding session to the attending. All that happens, you usually end around 7 a.m., 7:30. Again, each institution is different. And then you go to the operating room. So you go to the operating room all day, depending if there's an A case. I don't know, I was last at Cleveland Clinic. So there was like an A case or a B case or 1 to 2 cases. You do that. Usually you get a break in between for lunch if it works out, or it's just a really long case all day. Then usually you might get out, let's say the first case lasts 6 hours, you're out by like 1 p.m. You then, if there's no other case for the day, you might do afternoon rounds. So sometimes I would step out, or if I had time, I would then check up on the patients I was seeing, look at their numbers, see if the plan was complete, and I might go check on them myself again. Or like at certain places like Indiana, MUSC, they had designed afternoon rounds that you could then join. It wasn't a mandatory thing. If you happen to be there, you could then go to afternoon rounds and then you would walk along with them. So that's, I would say, the common theme. And then like you're told to go home whenever the day's over. But you kind of walk in knowing, I'll say this, you walk in knowing when you need to be there, but you don't really know when you're going to go home. Like that's how I took it, is like I'm told when I'm going to go home. It might be 4 p.m., it might be 6 p.m., it might be 10 p.m. You don't, that's just how you have to go through each day. I think, Alice and Adam and imply change anything up from how what I experienced. I thought that was it's pretty fundamental.
Just a quick follow-up. You went to seven, just to confirm, you went to 7 away rotations?
Yeah. I
Was it
did. So
both?
yeah, East. That was actually in cardiac, but it was for general surgery.
Okay.
I did one at UAB with at the 4-3. I did MUSC, and then I did Indiana University. I did Ohio State University. I did UT Health San Antonio, and then I finished off with Cleveland Clinic in January to February.
So did you do UNC?
No, I did not do UNC.
Well,
Surprisingly
you
enough,
ended up matching there.
I matched at UNC, but I did not do an away at UNC. So I yeah, I mean it's just how it works out, I guess. You never know. It's
Okay. But just to follow up, did you apply to both general surgery and I6?
I did. I applied both.
Okay.
But
Um,
I've been told that, and you guys might have heard different things on the board, but like when you want to go cardiac, you put your whole foot in. You have to be very much like I'm going to do cardiothoracic surgery, and like your application shows that. I think
mhm.
I had some trouble in the general surgery world because some people were like, "Oh, so you want to do cardiothoracic?" Like you could just tell they're like, "Oh, you want to do cardiac," and there was some push away against that at certain places, not everywhere. But I think like I said, if I want to do I6, I need to put my full foot forward. So like all most. Five of my aways were I6, one was 4-3, and one was just a general surgery rotation.
Okay. Just to our panelists, a show of hands. Two hands if you apply to both general surgery and I6, and one hand if you just apply to 1/6.
I don't know how to do the emojis, but both.
Both, both. So everybody both. Okay. All right. Thank you. Alice, would you like to, or Lovette, would you like to add anything to the like a typical day?
Yeah, I was gonna say, obviously Andrew has done 7, and so I feel like he's the master in this, but it really depends on the institution, and your experience can vary a lot. And so some institutions you're on the entire cardiac service just being one service. So for example, Adam and I were at Columbia together, and essentially you don't really carry patients. You just, you round with the team, but you don't really present on anyone. You don't pre-round on anyone. And you kind of just show up to the OR and you just stay until whatever last case there is that day, regardless of attending. And so that's a very different experience versus when I was at Duke, it was very much so like you on this attendance. You carry
Really stick out, and just for your not just to stick out, but they really help you be more engaged during rounds, and it's a much better educational experience rather than just focusing on, oh, what's the first step. Like no one's going to ask you, like, they might, hopefully they don't, but no one's going to ask you like, what's the next step, what am I going to do in this operation, maybe major things, but ICU is really where it counts, I think, at our level.
And
Thank
I was
you.
just going to say really quickly to add on the day of life thing. So just because you're on a cardiac surgery service doesn't mean that you can't go into thoracic cases too. So I think really utilize if you do get done early and there's things going on, and if you have the bandwidth, because I'm sure you're going to be very tired, but try to go into the thoracic cases because it really it's half the specialties. So it's really good to get that exposure early. But then two, you also get to meet the faculty and you get to learn sort of what does thoracic surgery look like at that institution. And then the other thing I was going to say is you don't have to go into the rotations blind either. I know one thing I did was I always reached out to people who, like the residents that I knew there, and you can chat with them about, maybe they did an away rotation there. Like, what did you do when you were there? What are the expectations? Instead of kind of going in the first day, you have no idea what's going on because it's a lot to pick up quickly just because kind of like what Andrew and Alice said, it's really different at different institutions. And so really utilize the residents because they're there to help support you. They want you to do well. So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so going into the application, I see a lot of questions coming in about applications. Um, let's see, there was one that had to do with, there we go. So for those who did the away rotations, did you ask for a letter? If so, how did you go about asking for a letter of recommendation? We can start with Alice.
Yeah, so I think this is a very interesting question, and I've heard sort of different things. So I think one of the traditional things I've heard is you should ask for an away because an away letter will demonstrate that you're able to, do well with a new group of attendings who are unbiased, stuff like that. I took a different approach. I didn't get any away letters. I had 4 attendings at Hopkins that I knew really well and wanted letters from. And so I didn't actually bother getting an away letter. And then sort of adding to that was the rotation that I did right before submitting applications was Stanford. And I went to the chair at Stanford and I was like, hey, look, I had a really great time would you be willing to write me a letter? And he was like, I would be willing to write you a letter, but let me tell you that like when I read applications and I look at away letters, I actually don't look at the away letters because I don't care about reading somewhere that's only known you for 1 month versus for maybe more years. And then the other thing he was like, look, if you get a really, really great letter from a place like Penn, for example, I'm just going to assume that you're going to Penn and I'm going to assume you're not going to be interested in coming to Stanford. And so I heard that and I was like, okay, I guess we're not going to do an away letter. That's fine. And I already did have 4 other letters. And so I think there are both sides of it. Would love to hear everybody else's experience, but I personally did not get an away letter.
That is very interesting. Thank you for sharing. Andrew?
Yeah, I got 2 away letters out of mine. So one came from just a mentor over the past like 3, 4 years. My other letter was from research when I was at MUSC. I got an away letter for UAB was in July for me, and then MUSC was in August. So those two worked out for me an away letter. I did it. So again, everyone hears different things in the field, just like Alice was saying. There's different ideas, different thoughts. For me, I don't have a home institution. I don't have a home cardiac program. And also I don't have like, I've also been told that it can matter who writes a letter for you in this field and like what name is on that letter when they write it. So for me, like I went to UAB and the residents knew why I was there and I was to work with the chair. So I spent my month with the chair and I was like a preceptorship model where I was with him every single day. And so I got a letter from him. And then at MUSC, I got a letter from a person that I was doing research with a few months or a year before. But then like I spent time with him on the OA rotation as well. So he could write to my clinical basis as well as research. So I was trying to do like a 2-in-1. But that was my experience just because like I didn't have a home program. So like I had to kind of get my letters a little bit more like out and about. But no, I agree though. I think the best of both worlds is to have a really, really strong letter because they've known you for so long and they're a really big name in the field. Because then you're getting both, and like that's really helpful because then like everyone who reads that knows who that letter writer is, and they can also back that that person's known you for like more than just like as Alice said, like a month.
So you don't think that is going to influence like, oh, well, if you get a really strong letter from MUSC, then there's a chance that you're going to go there?
I didn't go there as you say, so I think
That's true.
it kind of matters. I want to say. I don't know. I think it's institutional dependent because as Alice made the comment, like each institution has their own thoughts that they have around where the letters come from, where they don't. Like that's the one thing with I6 is there's still a lot of variability when it comes to those things. And like you have to hear general gestalt things. But even then, like you'll hear at one place that they want this specifically. So if you want to go there, you focus on those things, right? So I think I was just going for what the gestalt was in a sense of I heard try and get like good name letters and like get them talking about your clinical knowledge base and seeing you in the clinic. I had one research letter, but that was it. I made sure that most of them were clinically based too. So things like that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Adam?
I think the nice thing is you can get an unlimited number of letters, and you only have to submit 4 per program. So my approach, I kind of like Andrew. I didn't have a home program, so I needed to get a lot of letters for my way rotations. Cleveland was after ERAS, so it was too late. I did get one from Columbia and one from Cedars. I think what you should do is obviously like there's going to be different qualities of letters. Some you're getting it from someone because he or she might be a huge name in the field, and those aren't going to be personal letters. You know, it doesn't matter
Mhm.
how good we are. Like they're not going to be personal letters, and that's fine because that name carries weight. On the other end, if you want to have someone who you've worked with longitudinally, either a research mentor, maybe your home institution, and those letters are going to be very intimate and really speak to your character and how strong you are. I can kind of see what Alice is saying is if you get a letter from somewhere you spent a month and it's describing you like someone who's known you for 4 years, you probably did an incredible job there, maybe have some deep ties there. I think a way to combat that is rather than not asking for the letter, you should get the letter, but then be strategic with where you send each letter. So when I would submit when I'm submit ERAS, you go to each program and you assign 4 letters. So I would think, okay, well, this letter writer went to this institution. I'm going to use his or her letter. This letter writer is always on projects with this person, so I'm going to send their letter there. This person, they're part of the same, task force on
Excellent.
STS.
Mhm.
So think like that, and you don't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't just say I have 4 letters or I'm not going to ask because I have enough. have as many as, you're putting in the work, you're spending a lot of money to go on these rotations. It's not selfish to write the letter at the end. As for requesting, something that I found very helpful, because I have extreme anxiety talking to attendings, is I would go to their executive assistant. There's usually an executive assistant office in the hospital. You just go introduce yourself. You say, I'm a visiting student. I'd love to get a meeting with Dr. So and so. I'd love to ask for a letter. Any tips? And usually they'll laugh because they've been there for years and they've seen students do it all the time. So they'll help you set a meeting, and then they'll also tell you what's the best way to approach it. And usually they'll kind of tell the attending before you go meet them, by the way, they're probably going to want for a letter. So, play nice. So that can kind of make the experience a little less awkward and focused when you go to meet with.
Gotcha. So, quickly about ERAS application. I'd like to get brief answer from each and every one of you. What did you include in your ERAS application that you felt made you stand out? We can start with Alice.
Um, to be quite honest, I don't know that anything in particular really stood out. I think for me, I've had extensive research experience and I did take a dedicated year of research. And so for me, that was kind of the focus of my application, but also in terms of, what I was looking for in a program. I wanted a more academic program, a program that did have those research opportunities. And so I know someone else, I think Adam said it earlier, it's really about fit. And so for me, I think I'm a sort of research applicant, but also looking for a research program. But to be honest, when I was going through interviews and, getting comments from interviewers, it really felt like they cared a lot more about the letters than about, like what volunteering activity you put on your ERAS application, for example. And to be honest, I don't know that everyone necessarily read the actual application so much. So it's just, looking at the numbers, looking at how many research items you have, looking at your step score, and then going to the letters.
Okay. Lovette?
Yeah, I would definitely say the same thing. That was one thing I always get commented on, like just the amount of research that I've done. So I definitely, especially if you want to go to academic center, I do kind of think that it is important to kind of show that there is an interest, especially because a lot of these programs kind of want like some sort of dedicated research experience time. So I think for me that was kind of what really was highlighted. And then just having like I've gotten scholarships from AATS, STS, like showing an interest that you've been going to the events, maybe you've been getting awards, things like that. I think those also are helpful.
Awesome. Thank you. Just real quick before, oh, I see one very interesting question. So regarding ERAS, how did you guys navigate using signals? Anybody feel free to chime in.
So for integrated cardiac programs, we only get 3 signals. And we had a call with sort of the TSDA program directors a few days before applications were due. And they said that they made sort of an implicit agreement across programs that you should signal where you want to go, but you don't have to signal places where you did aways. Now, I think it was sort of hit or miss on whether or not people actually followed that. So the idea was that if you did an away, that would count as a signal and you didn't have to then send another signal. But I personally still sent signals to programs that I was really interested in, even if I had done an away, just to really cement it. And then I think the bigger question is the general surgery side. There are 15 signals. And so I think 15 is a lot harder than just having 3 signals. But 15, you really kind of have to think about, okay, like you might only really be considered by these 15 programs. And so you really have to think about where you want to send signals.
Okay. Adam?
Yeah, I agree with Alice. 2 out of 3 program directors, when I jokingly mentioned the TSDA rule about not signaling them since I did their way there, said that, well, last year kids did both. So I don't think, unfortunately, that a lot of people are following the rule. And even if they are following it, I think there are going to be students that really want to go to these programs and they will do both. And I think for better or for worse, that's kind of how you have to approach it. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of, the programs you do your ways tend to be the programs you really want to go to. So I don't think it's really a waste for you to put your signal there. Like you really do want to be there and you want to put, as much effort into going there. What I ended up doing was using my signal on 2 of the programs that I did a ways at because I really wanted to be there. And then for another program, I used it for a program that I didn't do an away at. So maybe you could kind of use a hybrid approach like that. As for general surgery, I got killed on the general surgery front personally. I only got like 2 interviews from programs I signaled. So I don't really have the best advice for how to approach general surgery. But I think I definitely do think the it it means a lot more for general surgery. Like you really have to think about where you're going to use them, and since most of us won't be doing general surgery ways, and we're kind of marked for cardiac, you really want to make sure maybe use them at programs that are traditionally very cardiac heavy, such as Duke, Mayo. Like these are general surgery programs that really love their cardiac history. So they'll be happy to interview you and be interested in your cardiac focus and interest. So maybe
Okay.
think like that.
Thank you. And real quick, the last question.
We need,
Everyone who applied
sorry,
to
I'm so sorry. The new panelists are already here. I
here.
know
Okay.
I hate to be this person,
Not a
but
problem.
time
Thank
to
you.
give. Thank you all so much. So we're going to be moving in a bit, but the thoracic people are good and ready to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see. I think we'll give a few minutes while she switches people around. But everybody else, welcome, welcome, welcome. So there we go. Wait, Arslan, Justin, why are you guys in my room?
They switched the panelists, so this is now the thoracic room.
Gotcha. So I'm supposed to be switched then. Give me 1 second.
Okay, we can go ahead and get started just in interest of time. Um, Sorry that your question wasn't answered. I think it's just there wasn't enough time to answer all of them. So you can ask it again here, if you want. Or can go ahead and start that. But I guess for this now is the thoracic session. Um, we can start with introductions again from Justin and Arsalan, and we can go ahead and start asking questions after that.
Hi guys, my name is Arsalan. I'm an international medical graduate. I graduated from King Edward Medical University in Pakistan. Worked 2 years afterwards as an intern first, and then Department of Thoracic Surgery in my home institution. Then I applied for research positions in the US, worked in the Department of Cardiothoracic Surgery at research for 2 years, and matched this year. What's going on, guys? My name is Justin Olivera. Born and raised in Jersey. I ended up going to NYU for undergrad. I took a year off between undergrad and med school to go to the NIH for the post-bac fellowship. And then I came back to New York to go to Einstein. Um, Obviously interested in thoracic. The plan was not to dual apply, and then I ended up applying to one I6 program at the Brigham because they have a thoracic track, I6. And then long-term interests are thoracic oncology, really interested in drug development and health disparities research. So excited to answer your questions. Oh, and I matched to MGH to general surgery with the plan to apply into the 4-3.
Okay, so I think same as last session, kind of just unmute yourself. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. It's meant to be conversational. If you're too shy, you can also just chat me the questions and I can ask those for you. Or if there's any silence, I can go ahead and ask some of the preset or pre-asked submitted questions that we have. So please feel free and go ahead.
Well, hello everybody, and Eid Mubarak for the Muslim brothers here. My question is for Dr. Khan, if you may. I'm an IMG like yourself. I'm currently on a rotation Northwestern. I'm actively looking for research. I'm actually attending the ACC 2025 to ask about some attendings and sending cold emails here and there. So my question is, how did you come about it? And did the cardiothoracic oriented research impact your interview numbers in general surgery?
Okay, so to answer your first question, my research position, I started interviewing in after medical school, a year after medical school.
initially when I applied, I didn't get a lot of responses. I was also emailing a lot of professors who had labs and they were doing research. But I guess it's about learning what they are looking for in terms of being able to just do basic statistical analysis and being able to have some manuscripts that have been written, published in good journals. It doesn't matter what kind of research it is. It could be a meta-analysis or a systematic review. Uh, Although there are some other pathways, there are job vacancies that open up. For example, research fellow job positions open up on APDS. They advertise those posts. I would recommend you try every option available to be able to, secure a good position. In terms of research, I would say being focused especially in terms of general thoracic, since it is a huge part of the general surgery residency programs themselves. You have thoracic rotations, whereas most programs don't usually have cardiac rotations that are dedicated. It was beneficial for me in terms of the match itself. There are a few programs where the program directors or the chairs themselves are thoracic surgeons. That definitely helps. I don't know if it's the same in terms of cardiac. But at the end of the day, knowing what you want to do and having a CV that's driven towards that doesn't hurt you unless it will be it will be a 1 in 10 chance that the program director is against the fact that someone's dual applying. But in most of the cases, it just helps your case that you have a CV that's driven towards that particular field and you're expressing your interest towards that. And during the interview season, what matters more is you're able to talk passionately about what you want to do, and it just expresses genuinity towards the field that you're interested in. So
Okay. Well, I appreciate your very detailed answer, and I wish you very good luck, all of you, in your future endeavors.
thank you.
Next, we can try asking a question from the chat. So I think one that wasn't answered was that someone asked how many research papers, bare minimum, are needed to match? What's the number from the matched applicants? Is it quality or quantity or both?
So I think the easy, quick answer is that there's no bare minimum. I think something that we had said in the other room is that you just need to have a narrative. Um, I think that so everybody can access charting outcomes in the match. The NRMP publishes this every year, and you can see for every specialty, thoracic surgery included, um, from the matched applicants, what their average research experiences, work experiences, AOA status, step scores are. And so that will tell you that usually the top 5% of I6 applicants tend to have 25 to 30 deliverables. That's not all papers. That's posters, papers, abstracts, oral presentations. So that is a goal if you're shooting to be in that top percent of people that are applying. I think if you're a third year and you're saying, okay, I just fell in love with thoracic surgery, cardiothoracic surgery, I wouldn't let that number discourage you from applying. I would just have somewhere in your narrative, okay, I came to it late. I have my mentors. I have some research opportunities, but I haven't had time to put this all together or take a research year so that you have a little more time to work on research. There's not a bare minimum to anything, honestly, except probably step scores. Everything else is negotiable. I think it's really about who you are as an applicant, how strong your narrative is, and how you can convey that.
In terms of IMGs, I would say that research experience is also important, but there is no strict hard and fast number. You could be an excellent candidate as long as you are receiving an interview from the program. Once you have that interview, you're all on the equal standpoint. It doesn't matter if someone else has more research than you. It's about how well you present yourself and you have the right qualities that the program is looking for. Obviously, you have to aim for the statistics that say that you have to have like 25 to 30 deliverables to be able to qualify for that. So for me personally, I would say I had about 20 research publications and a few abstracts and posters.
I had less papers, but I had more posters and orals. And I think in terms of quality versus quantity, I think as a junior trainee, especially if you're applying as a medical student, you're not expected to have, first author randomized control trials. That's just not realistic. So I think it's perfectly okay if you have a couple editorials. Most of my papers right now are letters to the editor. But you should have like one or two really strong papers that are like statistical analysis or a like an observational study that you ran.
Um, is it okay if I ask a question? Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So, I was at the CT surgery interest day, I think a couple months back, and they mentioned, um, obviously applying general surgery just in case, general surgery and I6 just in case. And then also like being able to like craft um, a different application that is not too CT surgery so that because some programs frown upon that. So I was wondering how you were able to navigate being able to apply to both and having like a complete application for both. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard. And this is the caveat that I applied to one I6 program and it was a thoracic track specifically. So I still had a whole separate application ready just to apply to one program. So what that looks like is having like three strong general surgery letters, three strong cardiothoracic letters. Um, I doubled up and I had the thoracic surgeons also write general surgery letters, but I made sure that I also got cardiac letters for this I6 application. Um, you also got to do a ways on the, sorry, you got to do sub-Is on those rotations. So I did a thoracic sub-I and a cardiac sub-I. So I did 2 months of that. But then I also did 2 months of general surgery so that I could have strong general surgery letters also. I had two completely separate essays, two like personal statements, and I made sure that my letter writers that were doing thoracic, my thoracic surgeons that were doing general and I6 letters knew that they had to be completely separate letters. So I think it really does have to be two separate applications. Your CV is not going to change, but you should definitely not submit the same application to both because program directors tend to feel a way about that.
Going off of that, I had a few questions in the chat that were relating to that. And I think some of it was some concern that if general surgery programs see that you have, CT heavy resume or have done a lot of stuff in CT surgery, that they don't necessarily like that you're, dual applying for general surgery as possibly a backup. So kind of how'd you guys navigate that? Is that true? Um, yeah.
I mean, I think it's definitely true. I think Adam was hinting to this towards the end of what he was saying on from the last session, but I think like it's definitely true to a degree. There are definitely going to be general surgery programs that are very threatened by people that are dual applying. They're not going to want you in their program. I think you just kind of have to know that going into it. But at the same time, there are programs that have really strong CT departments, divisions, whatever, that are really welcoming of applicants that are dual applying. Like a couple that I can think of offhand, I know like MGH, Mayo, Wash, they specifically are like very welcoming of people that are dual applying because they don't have I6 programs. So they are confident that their 4-3 is the best training paradigm to train cardiothoracic surgeons. They're not threatened by people that are dual applying to other I6 programs, but at the same time, they really want the kind of people that are going to be leading the field in the future to come to their programs. But at the same time, there are programs where there's general surgery and I6, and like I know the general surgery program director said for a fact, if I get the feeling that you're dual applying, I'm not going to interview you. So I think you need to be strategic. You need to talk to people, talk to residents that are there, talk to people that applied this past cycle, really get a sense of the programs that you're interested in, how they feel about the dual application, and then just like really plan on if you're going to apply to both programs at the same place, you got to be okay with only getting an interview at one. And then at that point, I would say just apply to the one that you're more interested in being at.
Another question is that do you happen to know which I6 / general surgery programs have a good thoracic focus since a lot of the I6 programs tend to be more cardiac heavy?
So I only applied to Brigham. I was kind of agonizing over this being like I knew I wanted to. I'm interested in cardiac surgery. I like the operations. I like the training, but I don't want to do cardiac surgery as a career. I know I want to do thoracic as a career. So I was going back and forth over if I should dual apply or not. I think for thoracic track, Brigham is probably the the strongest in terms of the caseload and the exposure. Um, I think UPMC has really strong thoracic. Um, Kentucky, I've heard, I didn't apply there, but I've heard they have really strong thoracic I6. I think you really just got to do your research. I think generally every thoracic surgeon I spoke to, general thoracic, said that the I6 is not the way to go if you know you want to do thoracic surgery. You gotta kind of have to do your own research and make your own decision. I really enjoyed, I did an away rotation at Brigham on thoracic, and I did 3 weeks on thoracic, 1 week on cardiac, and I really loved my experience. I decided that even with that experience, I still wanted the traditional general surgery training paradigm, because of what I think that it offers. So you got to do your research, make your own decisions.
To answer this also, I know to my knowledge, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are I6 programs that have a dedicated thoracic spot. So I know Duke does that, and I think some other programs have that too. So I think, although Duke doesn't, okay, well, I think some have a dedicated, sorry, yeah, Justin, go ahead.
I was going to say, to my knowledge, the only one that you match into a thoracic spot is Brigham.
It's
Um,
Brigham, okay.
yeah, and I think Duke was high up on my list going into it because I knew that they had really strong thoracic, but then like talking to people that applied as thoracic track I6 people, I think there's still pushback from attendings there. I think at the end of the day, like you want to be at a program where the faculty support the program. So just because some people in the program are saying that we want a thoracic track person doesn't mean that you got to kind of feel it out and feel like, is this a place where like they genuinely want someone and are prepared to have the infrastructure to train them versus they're just saying that to recruit me.
Um, I was wondering, being someone who applied to general surgery, were there any general surgery evaluations that you did? Um, in terms of like, or was it just CT surgery evaluations that you did?
I did 2 away rotations. I did Yale General Surgery and Brigham Thoracic.
Okay, thank you.
One question I have in the chat is asking about how do you go about building a strong relationship for a letter with a busy attending?
I would say, obviously, most of my letters came from my research experience working with some of the attendings, but I did do a few rotations in Rush. The best way to go about it is that most of these institutions have feedback systems in place for rotating medical students, and the surgeons and the program directors usually do look at that. So I would say if, after every experience, just ask the people that you work with, including the senior residents and the other medical students, to just fill out these feedback forms for you so that they can come back to those in terms of when they're writing a letter for you. But my experience on this is limited. I think Justin can answer your question better.
I think longitudinal relationships are the most important thing so that when they're writing your letters and when they're advocating the programs for you, um, they have something substantive to say and it builds on the history of knowing you over the last couple of years. So ideally, the best way to do it is to kind of start meeting with people as a first and second year, and then spend some time with them as a third year on your clerkship, and then spend more time with them as a sub-I, and then plus or minus research. I think if you can do that, or as much of that as you can do, that's how you build like longitudinal relationships where people can write you really impactful letters of recommendation.
Another question was if panelists are willing to share how many interviews did each applicant receive, and can they share some interesting questions that were asked in the interviews?
It was, I'll be honest, it was a very rough year for general surgery. The signals went from I think like 5 the year before to 15 this year, and so the advice that we had going in was like, if you don't signal a program, don't expect to get an interview, but just because you signal, don't expect to get an interview. So it was rough. So I applied to 42 programs. I applied to 41 general surgery. I applied to 1 thoracic. I got 13 general surgery interviews and 1 thoracic interview. So and out of my 13 general surgery interviews, 2 came from programs that I didn't signal. So I wasted a lot of money applying to programs.
As an IMG, I applied to a lot more programs, about 100. My ratio is a bit off, but I received about 16 interviews, out of which about 10 of them were categorical spots, and of the six, the rest of them were prelim spots. Uh, I did receive most of my categorical interviews from the programs that I signaled, but there were two or three that I did not signal. I received an interview from them.
And just in terms of the interview questions, every program is going to be different. Every program's interview style is different. I think across the board, generally, like plan to meet with the program director and the chair for a few minutes. Plan to have a couple full-length interviews, and the length of time is going to be different. Some programs do panel interviews, so it's like five attendings, a chief resident, and you. A lot of programs do like two attendings, two or three attendings. Um, and most of the questions are going to be, I think more and more programs are moving towards standardized interview questions. So the questions are usually like the situational questions, like tell me about a time X, Y, and Z, you failed, you succeeded, you did something that you're proud of. Tell me about yourself is how everybody starts their interview. Um, yeah,
I
I got
received a few.
questions.
Sorry, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say I got some weird questions on the trail, but we can talk more about that offline.
Yeah, some of the weird questions that I got were more situational questions, but they were trying to assess your leadership and team working qualities. They would ask you to guide a resident who's already in the room to build the structure from Legos. And that's just how it's kind of trying to assess your leadership skills, I guess. And then there were a few questions where they would ask you to draw out your plans, including your objectives, the things that you see would hinder those objectives, and what is your eventual goal, and then just to visualize and explain what you visualize and how that changed your perspective and what you're trying to achieve. They were a little bit different, but these are questions that are standardized in the sense that major recruiting companies in the US, more towards the corporate sector, use these to assess different qualities within the candidate. Some of the programs started using those, so I would recommend that you give them a look before you go into an interview.
Yeah, the signals this year definitely changed things a lot. I think it feels like the max you could get for interviews is 15 because that's how many you signal. And it just goes down from there. But another question, um, do you think strong letters are more important than research experience? How did you approach asking for letters on away rotations if you did?
Yeah, I absolutely think I think the letters are the most important part of your application. Because trying to say this in a way that is nice. It's not that nobody cares what you have to say, but like people respect what their peers think way more than what you think, right? Because these are people that a lot of like if you look at chairs and chiefs of thoracic and cardiac surgery around the country, a lot of them trained together. Some of them went to medical school together. Like there's not many of them. So a letter from someone that they've gone back decades with, that they respect, that they can pick up the phone and call and ask follow-up questions to, that matters way more than anything else on your application. I got one letter from my chief of thoracic surgery here, Dr. Stiles, and everybody brought up his letter on every single interview. Um, Not that the rest of your application doesn't matter, but a lot of people, especially people that are applying to CT surgery, it's a very homogenous group of people. We all have individual things that make us special, but at the end of the day, everyone has, strong grades, step two scores, really good letters. Like, so it really comes down to the nuances and how strong your letters are that separates your application, I think.
In terms of asking for letters, I would say just email the people that you work with. Just make sure that the person that you're emailing it was impressed by your work, whether it was doing research or just clinical rotations. And if ask them if they could write you a good letter instead of just using the words just a letter. Because if someone is not willing to write you a good letter, they would just outright tell that to you. So I would say that ask them if they could write you a good letter.
I didn't get a letter from either of my OAs, but I think like I use a similar strategy that I would just tailor to getting a letter also. I think if you're at a place for a month, it's not a lot of time, but you should meet with everybody. I remember like I think I don't know if he's still on the call, but Ryan Arrington, he's a PGY1 going to PGY2 at Emory. And his advice to me was like, use that month to meet with everybody. Meet with the program director, meet with the chief, meet with the chair, meet with everybody. Talk to the chief residents because like at the end of the day, you're there to be like clinically excellent, but it's also FaceTime with the people that are making the decision about the rank list. So if you need a letter, meet with people early in the rotation and say, hey, it would mean a lot to me if you would consider, I know you just met me at the end of this month, if you would consider writing a letter, like a letter of recommendation for me. What do I need to do to Arsalan's point? What do I need to do to make sure this is a really strong letter? And then we can follow up over the course of the month to see. Like it might sound crazy to do that on the first or second day, but I promise you that month goes by super quickly. You're going to be super busy. So try and do it as early as possible and then follow up at the end of the month.
Another question is that what role, if any, did your involvement with TSMA play in applications? How can an incoming med student get involved?
I think you can take this one, Justin.
Yeah, I never had a formal like e-board role in TSMA. It was just really fun to like drink with people when I saw them on interviews and like we're all friends. So it is real. I will say it is really really nice. Like I remember MGH in particular because a lot of people applied to the 4-3 there. Like my interview day, like I knew maybe 75% of the people that were interviewing that day just from TSMA. Like seeing each other at meetings, seeing each other at conferences, like working on papers together. So that is really really cool. It makes it a lot less nerve-wracking when you get on a call and you're like, oh, like these are my friends.
Yeah, I will agree. I don't think anyone ever brought up TSMA during my interviews, but it does give a really good community when it comes to, asking questions, finding mentors, and just like being able to chat and drink with them and see them along the interview trail. And there's so many people too, and it's just good to know this network. Um, I think just got a question in the chat. Do you recommend IMGs to apply for research positions before applying?
Yes, definitely. Being an IMG, I think the biggest role that the strongest, I guess, factor in my application was my mentor. Uh, Working with someone for more than a year or even a year is very important for you because then they can make calls for you in terms of just, applying for the match. They could advocate for you to people they know. They could write you really strong letter. And because of the fact that these people understand the people that you're working with, how difficult it is for IMGs to get into the system, they just tend to go the extra mile to be able to secure those interviews for you and then help you throughout the match process. And eventually, I guess, helping with building your application is also an important aspect of it. And my mentor specifically guided me a lot during my personal statement writing and then just making up my application, putting in my experiences, and then also securing elective rotations for me within the institution. That was an important role that they played. So there are a lot of aspects that research helps you improve in your application, and I would definitely recommend for an IMG who's applying for the match.
I see a question about advice to M1s, rising M2s, pursuing CT and hoping to master an I6. I think the earlier you are that you can start, the better. I think like we keep going back to the word narrative, but I think you really just want something by the time you're applying as a fourth year that says like this is what I'm really interested in, and I have all these different experiences to speak to that. So I think leadership is really important, whether it's leadership in affinity groups that are important to you. So I served on the e-boards for the Student National Medical Association and Latino Medical Student Association at my school. I also was the president of the CT Surgery Interest Group 1 year. Go to meetings, try and get scholarships to these meetings. It's like, yeah, it's nice to get money to go to these meetings, but it's also a line on your CV that says like, you're really interested in this and this is why. STS has scholarship opportunities, ATS has scholarship opportunities. They both have conference scholarships and also scholarships for students that identify as backgrounds underrepresented in medicine. The Latino CT Society, the Association of Black CT Surgeons, those are really good if you identify as those affinities, if you have affinities for those identities, because they provide scholarships and mentorship for students from those backgrounds. Um, find mentors at your institution early that are going to be able to connect you with opportunities for research, clinical opportunities, and eventually write your letters of recommendation. I think the longer they know you, the better. And then as early as you can, identify programs that you really want to be at, especially if you're thinking I-6. Like those are programs that are taking one, two, most three people. So like you really want to make sure that if there's a program that you really want to be at, just full court press on that program. Make sure the program director knows you. Make sure that your letter writers know that that's the program that you really want to go to. Make sure that you do in a way there and absolutely kill it. I think those are all the things that you can do.
In terms of research, and there's a question in the comments where you asked us about the research nature of the research itself. There are a few. There's basically three kinds of research that you can do. There's clinical research, there's translational research, and there's basic science research. My lab was primarily translational research, but the structure of my lab is good in a way that basic science research and translational research does not have as many publication opportunities as compared to clinical research, because you can just analyze the data and get the manuscript out there. So I would recommend that you take up a clinical research opportunity if you're applying for the match very soon. Although I would still highly recommend that it's in your field of interest and not something that you're not interested in. The second thing would be that if you're doing translational research, obviously it has a better impact when you're interviewing with the people, because they ask you about the nature of your research. So you need to be able to explain all those things. And the second thing that helped me a lot, given the translational nature of my research, I was doing both clinical and translational projects, but I was able to secure a few grants, NIH funded grants and some local grants that were asked about a lot on my interviews, because that is something that goes a long way, I guess.
If there's no other questions, I can ask one. I guess what specific experiences during your rotations help confirm your interest in thoracic surgery specifically?
For me, I was working on thoracic for a year before I came to the US. In Pakistan, the hospital that I was working at, they were doing lung resections, and mostly it was related to lung resections. They weren't doing any transplants or esophagectomies. But the thing that interested me most was the kind of care that was present there. These people, the patients that would show up to our department would mostly be late stage patients who were not amenable to surgical resection. And the fact that this was not the case was something that was interesting to me. I wanted to bring that back to my country. That was one of the primary reasons. The second thing about thoracic was the long-term follow-up that's associated with even surgical oncology and thoracic oncology. You get to follow these patients throughout their uh, disease process, and you also get to collaborate with a lot of medical oncologists, radiation oncologists. So the multidisciplinary care aspect of these two fields was something that was interesting to me. That's what got me interested in thoracic oncology.
Yeah, I agree. I think like there were just my first exposure to thoracic surgery was in undergrad. I had the opportunity to shadow the chair of surgery at Sinai, who's been a long-term mentor for me. I was interested, similar to what Arslan was saying, I was really interested in surgical oncology just from experiences with family members dealing with cancer. And then I got to see like thoracic surgery was these big, massive operations, an open chest. You see the heart beating, you see the lungs breathing. It was the coolest thing to me. And then on top of that, there's a lot of science involved in the medical management of patients with cancer, and then opportunities for research and health disparities work as well. So it just tied everything together really well that I was interested in. And then while I was in medical school, I got exposure to cardiac surgery, and like all my friends make fun of me because they think I hate cardiac surgery. But it is really cool. Like it's super technical. The patients are super sick. Managing, like I think if you can do a CT surgery rotation, like you're also doing a critical care medicine rotation because when you're rounding on patients and coming up with plans with them, you have to titrate pressors, you have to look at the vent settings, you have to look at the tubes and the lines, and like it's really complex medicine also. So I think all of that was just really exciting.
And I guess I would definitely recommend that if you have the opportunity to go to the General Thoracic Surgery Club, you should definitely go there. It just proves how thoracic surgeons are a lot cooler than cardiac surgeons.
I think we have about a few more minutes left. Um, Time for probably two more questions, if anyone has any. Otherwise, I can also ask.
I had a quick question. Um, First, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming on here and speaking to us. I just wanted, I guess, some techniques on how to navigate with attendings during medical school, like attendings that are super busy in terms of like trying to reach out to them and getting research, like when they're like, so when some attendings are just like hard to reach out to, just, I guess if you guys have any advice for how we can finally like make contact and kind of establish a relationship.
Residents, I think, through Twitter. Doctors, attendings, I didn't reach out to because I mean, I don't know, there's like a fine line with that. But if I couldn't find a resident's email on their like on their page for wherever institution they went to, I would try Twitter next, and that was the next best place because there are people I could reach out to on Twitter I could never find any other contact info for. And then after that I get a phone number and we would text. And there's people still today. Like I reached out to John Treffels on Twitter, and we still text to this day. And it's because of, like, and he knew who I was when I interviewed for the TSMA position because he was like, "Oh, like you reached out to me, like how are you doing, man?" Like I'm not kidding. You guys were like, I know it's social media, oh my God, but.
You're
It,
human
it does
beings.
help. It does help.
Yeah, absolutely. I also messaged John Treffels too on Twitter, and
We
he didn't
we all love
respond.
We
John
all did,
Treffels.
yeah.
Everyone on this call
We all.
loves John Treffels.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, since we're wrapping up, first of all, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your time. I believe I heard a question earlier about if you guys are open to sharing your contact information, perhaps email or Twitter handle. If you could please drop that in the chat, that would be very helpful. And if you guys, I think someone also asked if you guys are open to mentoring. If so, I guess they can follow up via email. Oh, okay. Adam dropped his phone number. That's good. Nice email addresses.
No,
Okay.
I dropped Alice's phone number, so that's all going
Oh,
straight. I'm
okay.
joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys. I really do appreciate your time and congratulations once again. We look forward to seeing you at conferences. We look forward to being future colleagues. And yeah, thank you so much. Guys, you might want to get the contacts. Take a picture of it, actually. Alice, I'm taking a picture of your number. I already have Adam's.
Also,
Thank you
TT,
guys so
Althea,
much.
and everyone, thank you so much for organizing this and for inviting us.
Absolutely, no problem. And Adam, do we want to tell them there's a Anki deck coming soon for where rotations are not quite yet?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Where it should be coming out hopefully in the next 2 weeks. We got everyone's painful questions that they got wrong, and we compiled them together, and we're really excited about that. It's going to have sources to read up on the every card will have a link to do some additional reading, and
Mm-hmm.
we tried to make it as concise and quick as possible. There is both cardiac, adult cardiac, and general thoracic, as well as ICU and floor management.
Actually, hold that thought. If we could perhaps mention that in the big session when
Everyone,
everybody's together.
everyone has to act surprised though when we say it the second time,
Okay.
so you have to
Oh
be
my
on
gosh.
thinking.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think we should be kicked off now to the main. And if not, you can go ahead
We all
and
should be
exit your
able to
room and
manually
close.
go back to the main room.
Go back to the main room?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Thea.
Yeah.
I believe we're still waiting for the other session to come back to the room. There we go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. How did it go? I was jumping back and forth, and honestly, the conversations were just so amazing. A huge shout out to Albert and TT for like holding it down. Like that was amazing two times. So waiting for the other group to join us back. They're coming back in. Yay. Welcome everyone back. Again, a huge shout out to Albert and for moderating. And a massive shout out to our panelists. You all were amazing. Thank you for all the insights that you shared, everything that you did. So this is our essentially final thoughts section of our meeting today. This is for any, first of all, final words from our panelists. So I know that they have asked you the same question 7 times, but it meant that there is something that, came to your mind that you wanted to share, but you never really got the opportunity to share. This is a good place to like pour your wisdom down on us. And also for our audience here, if there's any question that you have been trying to get answered that has still not been answered, now you have the entire group here to ask those questions. So while we're waiting for the chat for additional questions, I'm going to kind of just go through my list of panelists for final thoughts.
Sorry to interrupt. Adam, do you mind briefly talking about the Anki decks, or would you do
Yes,
that during your final thoughts?
I could do during my final thoughts. That's fine.
Okay, all right, that
Yeah, yeah.
works. Sorry about
Thank you.
that.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's go ahead and start with Alice for final thoughts.
Yeah. I think honestly, not too much any particular wisdom, but it's the entire application process is a long and stressful process, and so really prioritize yourself through this. Prioritize wellness. Continue working out. Do those things that make you happy, and before you know it, it'll be over. And it's crazy to think about where we all were a year ago versus where we're now, and it's been a long process, but also an amazing process. And the friends you meet along the way are incredible. For those applying I-6, interviews are in person now, and it's just a lot of fun. And Adam and I have had some wonderful adventures on this journey together. And so really enjoy it. It's stressful and it's daunting, but enjoy the process.
Thank you so much, Alice. The next person is Aslan.
I would say just during this interview trail, I would recommend that you just be yourself. Just try to put forth who you actually are. It's just the most easiest way and the most comfortable way for you to present yourself and talk genuinely about your interest and who you are as an applicant. That's going to go a long way for you. Trust your mentors, trust their advice. And once you're done with an interview, don't think about what went wrong or what happened, because the more you think about it, the more the things you're going to find that went wrong. Just once you're done with it, walk out. Don't think about it ever again.
Thank you, Aslan. Adam.
Sorry, I was trying to mute myself. Yeah, thank you all for having us. And yeah, just exactly what was said before. And just I mentioned this in one of the breakout rooms, but your job on these aways and throughout this process is just to really be teachable and not to be excellent. So I think if you're always thinking about being excited to learn and not necessarily excited to be right or excited to look good, I think it'll take a lot of burden off of you, and it'll give you really that a comfortable place to learn and really be excited and enjoy everything that you're doing. So that's really something I hope we all kind of take away from this. It's something that I had to learn relatively early, and I wish I knew it even sooner. So please really give yourself the grace to forgive yourself and enjoy what you're doing and make mistakes and learn and just enjoy the process. And just really quickly, because TT's going to be mad at me if I don't mention it, we have a TSMA away deck coming out very soon. We've compiled all of our experiences together into some common ICU questions, as well as information of both adult cardiac as well as general thoracic rotations. Each card will be cited, and we'll have additional resources to read up on. So we really hope that's very helpful. And it's only going to cost $9 a month. It's free. I'm joking. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Adam, and thank you for all the work you do with TSMA. Next person is Andrew.
Yeah, first off, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. the advice that I can give, whether you're first year, second year, third year, I think you just have to try your best not to compare yourself to others is the first thing. Do be your best, like, and be your best, a better self of yours, be a better self of you the next day. I always thought about try to do that. I said, okay, like, am I better than I was yesterday? Am I better than I was the day before? Because you will bog yourself down if you try to compare yourself to others. It's an extremely competitive field, as you're all know or are now learning. It's very, very competitive. One of the lowest match rates around for CT, just the I6. But I think it's just you have to just try your best to be better every day and figure out something new that you want to learn to do the next day. And especially during aways, like it can be very difficult. It can be very hard. It's very draining. It's emotionally draining. It's everything. Just know what just understand like that is the process and like you have to get through that and find the best out of it and find the benefits out of it and just know that like it is a process that will end and there will be a better future after. Like there is light in that process when you go through it and it's there. You just have to keep working for it. So that's what I can give as advice. And then oh yeah, I'm on the products and proposals committee. I'm supposed to promote the away spreadsheet. There's an away spreadsheet that we all worked on and that the leadership worked on. There's an away rotation spreadsheet that has little tidbits about different away rotations at different institutions. Because as we were saying before, they're all a little unique and different. So make sure to check that out.
Thank you so much, Andrew. And the last but certainly not the least, Justin.
First of all, I'm going to go back to something Adam said earlier that I disagree with. He said that he's not always excellent. I disagree because he's always excellent. That's what I aspire to be in life. My advice to the rest of y'all, I think like just have as much fun with this as you can. Um, like Alice was saying, it's a really hard process. Like all of this is really difficult. There's emotional highs and lows. I think at the end of the day, your goal is just to end up at the best program for you. And nine times out of 10, that's not going to be the best program for anyone else but you. So just don't try to game this. Just be open to learning about programs. Let programs learn about you. Be honest about your goals and what you want out of your career, and it will work out. And you'll end up at the program that's going to support you to get there.
Thank you so much, Justin. And then TT had also some thoughts to share.
Okay, everyone, just to I know I've received some questions about how do I become a TSMA member. I literally just put the link to the website in the chat. If you go to that website and you just scroll all the way down on the homepage, you will see subscribe to our listserv, and you will get an email with all the events that we have going on. Another good way so when the Anki deck is ready for the away rotations, you will be getting an update from there as well. Another way to go about it is by following us on Twitter. Just TSMA Adam. It's just TSMA at TSMA. It should pop up. You will see it.
Thoracic scan, I believe. Hold on.
You could message the Twitter account and then we'll get you from there.
It's at
I
Thoracic.
actually don't.
Yeah.
Well, what is it?
Yeah,
I
so
don't
you
even
go
know
at
the Gmail.
Thoracic
What is
I'll put it in. We have
at
it
Thoracic
on
today, yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
All right. That's all I have to say. Thank you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations and good luck.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Congrats and good luck.
Thanks for spending your Sunday with us.
Certainly. And Winnie,
Thank you,
thank you for
guys.
putting this awesome event together with your teammates. We appreciate this.
Oh, thank you so much. It was team effort. Thank you to everyone here too. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. People are dropping out. So I think we're good.
We're going to talk about compensation now, or is there a separate follow-up question?
Good night.
We bill for time now.
Where
Okay.
does the $9 go to, Adam, for the Anki deck?
Loans, student loans, and coffee. This was amazing. Thank you for putting it together, guys. Really.
Thanks for joining,
Yeah.
Adam. Really appreciate
Thank you so much, Winnie.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you so much.
Aslan. Thank you. Okay, well, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Sunday.
Wait, Winnie, because I want to know who has like the recordings so that we can put it together. Because I have the one from when I was with TT's room first, and then I got to Albert's, but I just want to make sure if TP also like started recording. But we'll wait for the others to kind of drop out first.
Okay.
Promise, are you there? Oluwabukumi, are you there?
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
Okay. Great. Oh my gosh, it was such a great turnout. I know when we first started,
Mhm.
it was like 75 or something. But yeah, great job, Winnie. TT, thanks for helping. And then Albert
Thank
after
you.
he always leaves, he's just like, peace, I did my part. But yeah. So TT, were you able to actually let me stop recording?